So, welcome back, everybody. This is Toya, your host from Raven Maven, and I'm not even sure at this point what number episode we are on, but I am really pleased to have with me today Leah Michelle. She's an author, a I guess we could say a therapist now too, and she's also an educator because she helps other women and individuals learn how to become self-publishing authors. So, Leah, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today, and tell everybody a little bit more about yourself.
Yeah, so first of all, thank you for having me. My name is my full name is Leah Michelle Forney. I go by Leah Michelle, but I am a three-time published author. Um, I've been a published author for 3 years now. I'm a native of Queens, New York, so shout out to all my New Yorkers. But I currently reside in Maryland. I am also a marriage and family therapist. I graduated December of last year with my master's in marriage and family therapy, but I've been in the field of mental health for 8 years and counting as a mental health clinician. And then also I'm a book clarity coach. So what I help other women do is gain clarity around their message and around why they want to write books and who their audience is and who they're reaching out to, because a lot of times they think that their book or their message is for everybody. And so they soon learn when working with me that it's not for everybody.
That's funny, and I could also speak on that. When I freelance and work with clients, I found that that is also a misconception that people have, that whatever they're creating or working on is for everyone, which you and I both know isn't true. So, again, thank you for sharing some clarity on on what you're doing. So basically, how does that whole process work for you as far as working with women who are interested in, becoming an author? Like, how do you help them? Where do you feel like is the biggest hurdle for them in figuring out the clarity? Or sometimes I'm pretty sure they're ignorant that they're ignorant to the fact that there might be some area that is not clear.
Yeah. So um, when I started doing coaching, it actually just kind of like sporadically happened. I always had individuals come to me about, I want to write a book. I want to write a book. I want to write a book. And so my number one question is, okay, so what is your book about?
Right.
And they usually are very vague. They'll say something like, oh, my pain. Okay, well, what about your pain? Or they'll say something like, oh, I want to talk about, like, I overcame this hurdle. Okay, what about it? And so how I work with my clients is I ask them a series of questions. One, what your message is, what exactly are you trying to write? And then we kind of go into the who, what, when, where, and why. So, okay, who are you trying to target with this message, right? So don't give me broad numbers, because that's one of the misconceptions. People, when I ask what specific age group, they'll say, oh, from birth to 99. And I'm like, nope, that's too
That's
broad.
everybody.
like you're not gonna reach that many people. And so why I ask them to be specific in who they're targeting is because what I share with my clients is how you talk to a specific age group is the same way you write to them. You have to know the language, right? So how I would talk to my nieces or my nephew, right, who are all like range from like 1 year old to preteen, is way different than how I would talk to my grandmother who's 76, right? And so the importance of knowing your message is one, but also who are you targeting? Like, be very specific. So I asked them, what gender are you targeting? And don't just tell me, oh, I'm targeting women. Okay, are we targeting single women? Are we talking married women? Are we talking divorced women? Because again, when you get that specific, it will help you with the language you use to reach that woman. But also, when you're getting clear on your message and your audience, it helps you when it comes to marketing to them, right? Because you'll know where to find them, right? So if you are saying it's for everybody, then you're going to be trying to reach everybody. But if I know that I'm focusing specifically on single Black women ages 20 to 30, right? Well, where are single Black women ages 20 to 30? 9 times out of 10, they're on social media, they're in some type of millennial group, so I know where to go find them.
Right.
Whereas if I focus on everybody, I'm just going to be spinning my wheels trying to figure out how to reach them.
Right. So let's pull back a little bit and I kind of went forward with talking about like the coaching part, but I want to spend some time talking about you as an author, and the early history of that. I know you're 3-time published. So what made you, decide that you was going to publish a book, and how has that like changed your life or your perspective on life?
Yeah, so I have actually always been a writer. I've been writing since I was a kid. And it's funny because my grandmother reminded me, I think it was like Thanksgiving, we were just having a conversation about how I used to write to God and Santa. Like I would just pen these letters that she never kept, but like I would just pen these letters. And so I guess I've always been writing since
Right.
a child. And that was writing was a therapeutic thing for me because I grew up without my mother and father. And so the best way to articulate my emotions was just writing and just getting it out. And so I would pen poems here and there. I would write sporadic things here and there. And so what led me on the journey to becoming an author was just one day in conversation with a really great friend of mine, her saying to me like, you know, you have a story to tell, right? Like the world should hear your story. They should hear how you have gone through all this tragedy and all these issues and all these things and made it on the other side. And so I'm like, I'm a very contrary to popular belief, I'm a very introverted person. So you asking me you asking me to tell the world my story is kind of like the spotlight is on. And so after praying about it and really talking to God, I felt led to write my first book, Unapologetically Me. And so that book details my on again, off again, estranged relationship with my mother, and just all that I learned and the lessons I learned just by having to take care of her for 1 year of my life, and how God used that time to really show me some things and expose some things about me that
Right.
I needed to work on. And so that's how the writing started.
Right. Would you say that, from there, you knew that that was going to be like, I'm pretty sure when you wrote your first book, it was like, oh, I just like completed this huge feat. Because writing a book isn't easy. Like, it is to me, writing a book is one of the biggest undertakings that I think anyone can do, or it's very challenging. I found that I have attempted to write books and I'll start, but I won't finish, and I'll lose the zeal to like complete it, like get to the finish end. So I have so much respect for authors, and I'm a avid book reader. So I just wanted to say, speaking about that part, I'm pretty sure like, as a writer, or the therapeutic part of dealing with the things that, growing up that were hurdles or obstacles, you didn't know that some of that would be almost, I don't want to say absolved, because I feel like we always will have those things that are sensitive parts or sensitive topics, but like it's almost like you learn to deal with those things. And I would say like maybe through your book that kind of helped you.
Absolutely. It definitely was therapeutic. My first book, I cried writing the whole book
Wow.
because I was reliving um, a lot of what I was talking about. And so
Trauma,
just
yeah.
going back down memory lane and thinking about just some of the specific things that I spoke on, it was very therapeutic. I felt like when it got time to release that book, I had freed myself from that.
Right.
And so that is that's one of the things I do tell my coaching clients, is the importance of making peace with your story.
Right.
Making sure that when you present this book to the world, that you're no longer operating from a place of victim, but you're operating from a place of victory, right?
Right.
And so I always challenge my clients, like, make peace with your story. Do whatever inner work you have to do, whatever emotional work you have to do. I'm a therapist by trade, so I would say go to therapy if you have to, but do whatever it is that you need to do to heal, so that you present yourself to the world as a victorious person, because your readers will tell. They can tell when it's something that you're still trying to deal with or haven't dealt with, and it will show up in how you present yourself.
I also like think too with because this is not fiction, like these are, the genre is obviously almost biographic in a way, and I always like admire, like I read a lot of Ayanna Vazant's books, and what I appreciated about her is that you could tell, like in each book, like there was always still continued growth. Like she never positioned herself as like, oh, I'm fixed and voila, everything's done. And yeah, like
Yeah.
even in her shows now, like you can still tell, like she tries to like communicate that to people, that when you're working on yourself, it's not like, to me, it's the same as like a website. Like a website, you could design it, you create it. And the great thing about a website is that it's not like a book where you got to hold, once it's printed, it's done. Like you want to fix something, you got to make another edition. Like you got, but a website, you go on, you can put up some new information, and, or you could change something. It's two different mediums. And I feel like people are more like websites, where like, you every day you're working on yourself, you're evolving. And I feel like with your third book, which unfortunately I haven't read yet because I'm still waiting for it to get in here in the mail, but let's talk about your third book, Defining Moments, from Tragedy to Triumph to Destiny, which was just released. And also please share with everybody where they can get it. But let's talk about like what made you decide to, publish another book, and what was, I guess, the most challenging part about it? Because I feel like, is it as easy as the first time, or was it harder the first time and it just gets easier the more you do it? That's kind of like, my thoughts on, or my question.
I think it doesn't get easy. I think that with each book, so because I'm a nonfiction author, I draw from personal experiences. So each of my book has detailed some personal experience of my life. So again, with my first book, I really delved into my mother-daughter relationship. With my second book, Courage to Win, I was in a place in my life where I was dealing with discouragement. And so the issues in that book surrounded just different events in my life where I felt discouraged, where I felt like I wasn't good enough, where I felt like I didn't have what it takes. And it took me to listen to a sermon where the pastor was talking about how it takes courage to keep going.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's where Courage to Win was birthed. It was like this, it came to me like, that's exactly what I need. Like, I need to remind myself that in order to be a winner, it takes courage to keep going. Like, winners win, right? They keep going. So
I have to applaud, because that is so true. Like, it's easy to like come up with something, but like to stick to it is hard. I get it too. And I feel like with people like us who have a lot of ideas and want to do something, we easily get into this moment where we get in our own head and we're like, oh, like maybe I'm not doing the right thing. Maybe I should be doing something else. And it's hard,
Yeah, it definitely is. And so that's how Courage to Win came about. So Defining Moments was probably the hardest book I've ever written. And
moreover, the third one, is it because of the content,
it was the
or
hardest
because
book. Yeah.
Wow.
It was the hardest book because I was still working out my process while writing. So Defining Moments details a year of great loss in my life, where I buried my fiance, my father-in-law, one of my closest friends, my sis, she was murdered. And then I had a family friend who took his own life. So 5 different deaths in a period of time, like a year and a half. And so just having to like work through 5 different deaths, grieving 5 different deaths simultaneously, and all the lessons that I learned, because I talk about it in my book. One of the biggest lessons I learned was how to ask for support, but also how to receive support. And that was like hard for me because I'm one of those people by nature, creature, or habit, that think that because you've been my friend forever, you should know me, right? You should know what I want, when I want it, how I want it. And so going through my grief journey, I've truly learned, like, no, that's not how this works. Like,
a lot
you
of people
can't
don't know.
assume,
Yeah.
yeah, you can't assume that your friends knew. And so what I did was I would isolate, I would shut down and push people away. And it took me to have really great conversations with some really close friends to say to me, like, listen, I'm trying to be here for you, but you keep pushing me away. And so I had detailed a whole chapter about what is support, and then knowing how to ask for it, right? So one of the ways that I talked about in my book was me and one of my friends came up with a code word. And so if I just needed to talk, if I was in a space of just like grieving really bad, I would just text her the code word and she knew what it meant, right? But then the other aspect to support was being open to receiving it, right? So you can ask for it, but are you open to receiving it? And so defining moments, how the title of the book came about was I really thought about how you see that picture of a split road, like a fork in the road. And so when I think of defining moments in your life, I think about how you're at a crossroad, right? You have a decision to make. Like, do I go down the familiar, comfortable path, or do I take a fork in the road and go down this unknown place that I have no clue what's going to happen? And so that's where defining moments came from.
I wanted to also talk about, like, you know, because Raven Maven, we're all about supporting and featuring people, Black people, in their different creative positions or entrepreneurial ventures. And what I really like that what you were just talking about is talking about how to communicate to people, how you need to be supported, and then opening yourself up to that. And I feel like, and you could tell me if you agree or not, but, or actually my question is, do you think a lot of Black women struggle with asking for support and then don't know how to receive support? And I wonder why that is.
Absolutely. So I think one of the big reasons why we as Black women struggle in that area is because we have taken on the superwoman syndrome. Right?
Hate it. Mm-hmm.
Like, we want to do everything. We want to wear every hat. And so I remember when my fiance was alive, Joseph, he used to always say to me, I don't need you to be superwoman. I need you to be Lois Lane. And I used to be like, what? Like, what
are you dumb?
What are you talking about? But in his own way, he was saying, take off the cape. Like, I don't need you to be trying to be my fiance and an entrepreneur and graduate student and lover and friend and all these different things at one time. Like, take off the cape. Like, just be you. And so I think that's why we struggle so hard with support, because one, we want to show up as superwomen. We also want to show up. I think another aspect to that is that some of us have imposter syndrome, right? So we want the world to believe that we're just this great, grand, and wonderful person, and we don't want to show the vulnerable side. And I think that was one of the things that was hard for me when I was writing my third book, was because I had a public grief. Like, the world knew that these loved ones had died. And so that was hard for me because I'm not a spotlight person. I'm a private person. But I feel like God wanted that to happen because he wanted people to see, like, yo, it's okay to be vulnerable. It's okay to show your scars. It's okay to have experienced loss. Like, it's okay. I think in a way, because even as a clinician, I think that I too sometimes struggle with being superwoman and feeling like I'm supposed to save everything and save everyone. And I learned in 8 years that best piece of advice one of my professors used to tell me, it's your client's life anyway, right? And so even with my friends, even with my family, it's their life. Like, it is not my job to swoop in and save the day. It's not my job to swoop in and fix it. And so that's one of the reasons why I believe we struggle with support, is because we want to show up as the hero instead of realizing that I don't know everything. I don't want to profess to know everything, and that it's okay to ask for help. I think to answer part two, I also think that we as a group of women have yet to create a safe space for each other, right? So it's like, okay, if I put myself out there and ask for help, how am I going to be received?
Right.
And so a lot of times with Black women, we're catty and we're messy, right? And so that's
very
the
critical.
Thing,
yeah.
Right. Very judgmental. And so that's the first thing people think
right.
of why they hesitate to ask for help. But over the years, I've learned that either I'm going to ask for help or I'm going to suffer in silence.
Right.
Which one is it? And I just rather ask for help and throw it out there and see what comes of it than to suffer in silence.
I wanted to say too, like the other part of it that I think is a large reason for it is a lot of us still have different, I think everybody has insecurities. And I just think that they are magnified at different times in your life. So it's not like it might pop up in depending on the situation. So there could be a situation where you're highly confident and you're comfortable in and you're going to dominate. And then you could walk into a situation that is unfamiliar and you're not confident and you're feeling insecure. And what I want to say is that Black women need to know that it's okay to feel insecure. Absolutely. And it's okay to sometimes feel less than. I think that we are uncomfortable with the idea that we can't be everything.
Yeah.
When it's not realistic and it's not sustainable. And I think once we stop teaching each other that or enforcing that, you know, like when I watch Instagram and I see these girls and they beat every day and every day they look like they just came off a Vogue issue, not real. Or if it's real, that's their reality. And I'm not saying it stresses them because like I said, everybody's life is different, but it's like, just try to give a perspective. Is like, that doesn't have to be your reality. Yeah. And it's okay if it isn't, you know? That's like, I feel like the deeper under side thing to that, to the whole with our women, with Black women. And I would like to see more conversations about it, you know?
Yeah. And to add, I would say that we got to stop seeing each other as competition. You know, we can collaborate. I think over the years, I've grown to this place of like, you're not my competition. Like
can I just exist?
Right. Like I would rather collaborate with you. Right. Because I don't profess to know everything. So I always want to surround myself around women and men too, that I can learn from and they can learn from me. Like I told somebody the other day, if you are the smartest person in your circle, it's time to get a new circle. Like, I don't want to be the smartest one. Like, I'm cool with being around people.
And that's exhausting.
At a different level than me.
Right. And I also, you know, on the other spectrum of that is it's exhausting to be in a circle where you don't have rest time. Like my circle, we're very driven women. And, I know, like, if one of my friends are going to be the next Oprah, then I'm going to be the Gayle. Or, like, it's going to be, like, 3 Oprahs in the group. Like, we want to make sure that in my circle, for example, that if this person is on the downward spiral or something is happening, that we're up. So there's always somebody up to pick the other one up, you know?
Yeah.
And I feel like that should be the dynamic of your circle. It should never be that everybody's just stagnant and everything, you know what I'm saying? Like just no movement. Because to me, I always think of death when I hear things like that. To move on, where can people get your new book? And also, is it going to be like is it a lot of copies out or is it like a limited amount?
So it's definitely not a limited amount. It's definitely not a limited amount at all. But right now it is available on Amazon and Barnes and Nobles. And it's actually in the process of being converted to audiobook as well. So for all those audiobook listeners who like to listen on the go, like me, actually all 3 of my books are in the process of being converted to audiobook. So
Whoop, whoop.
I've added that extra component, if you will, so that, because some people, I mean, I'm an avid reader. I love a good paperback. I love a good hard book, but sometimes I just want to press play and still get what I need. And so, yes, look out for the audiobook soon.
Leah, what would be your advice to upcoming writers, and by any means don't feel shy about talking about the services you offer, but yeah, like what would you tell them as far as like, getting their first book out there, and what should they expect?
Yeah, so I would say a few things. One, if you're going to write from a personal place, again, make sure you've made peace with your story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying right at the beginning, because the writing in itself is so therapeutic and so healing for you that at least by the time you publish, you should have made peace with your story. Because again, your readers can tell. It's nothing worse than going to a book signing and you're asked to talk about your story, and you on the platform boohoo crying, right? Like, it's nothing worse. So you want to make sure that you can present yourself like a person that's like, yep, been there, done that. This is who I am today.
This happened, right?
So that would be one. 2, definitely do away with the myth that your book is for everyone. And so one of the things I say here, and I say to my coaching clients, and they laugh, is I'm like, yes, mommy, daddy, Pookie, and them are going to buy your book because it's you, right? They want to support you. But the content, the storyline is not for everyone. It's not for them. So yes, we appreciate the support. We appreciate Pookie and them buying it, but it may not be for them, right?
Right.
So definitely get clear on that message, get clear on who you're targeting, be very specific. I mean, I've had clients go as far as like socioeconomic status, like be very specific, because that's going to help you with your marketing. And then for those that always ask me, how do I write a book? Simple answer. Start
writing.
That's it. Start writing. And I say that with a laugh and all honesty, because what I find when working with different women is that they put the cart before the horse. So they want to focus on editing and formatting and copyrights and publishing. And I'm like, guess what? An editor and formatter cannot edit and format nothing that ain't
It's nothing.
So your job as a author, as a writer, is to do exactly that. Write. Once we've gotten that out the way, once you have completed the book, and only you will know when you have completed the book, then and only then do we discuss editing, formatting, copyright, and publishing.
In the cover.
So, yeah, in the cover. Like, seriously, because people do. I've been doing it for 3 years of publishing books, and I'll be amazed at how many people, and my question is always, have you started writing? And they'll say no. And I'm like, well, come back to me when you have.
Right.
Because what is an editor going to edit? Air? You have to give them something to edit. And so those are the things that I would say. And just, don't be a self-editor, because I find those two where they'll write, but then they want to go back and make everything perfect. No, that's the job of an editor. Again, your job as the writer, as the author,
so flush the whole idea out. Yeah.
It's just to write. Get it all out. Let your draft be as real, raw, and rugged as it needs to be. Because guess what? When you do hire the editor, that is what the editor is going to do. It's going to help you flush it out. It's going to help you structure it. He or she's going to help you make sure it flows. That's not your job. Your job is to tell the story.
I also wanted to say that what I like too about you is with your books, you also like offer other, products. So the another good tip for up and coming authors is just any entrepreneur is to just make sure that you're generating some form of passive income, maybe some merch, or I don't know, like some one-on-one sessions, but don't let your book be like the only mainstream. You could do public speaking. There's just so many options out there. So I think we should totally like pin that in as well, and keep that in the back of people's mind, that make sure you have more than one form of revenue coming in.
Absolutely. That was the biggest piece of advice I got from an entrepreneur who, by the way, makes six figures.
Wow.
Like, she literally said, so you have a book. Okay, then what? Like, where's the brand? Where's the business? What is surrounding the book? Like, she really had to teach me that the book is a product. People will buy the product, but people really want to purchase from you. So what are you offering people?
Right.
And so that was a big piece of advice. So that's where the merch came from. That's where the coaching came from, because people buy from people. And so when I tell my coaching clients now is that always position yourself to have options when you're purchasing, when you're promoting your book, because while somebody might not buy your book, they still want to support your message. And so a great example I can give, my kickboxing instructors, when my third book launched, they all brought t-shirts. They never purchased the book, but they supported the message. It was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna support this defining moments. Let me get that.
And you can still buy books though. Like, if you're not going to read them, you can buy gifts as you can. I wanted to just jump in and be like, and even if you're not going to read the book, like, you could buy the book for someone else as a gift. Mm-hmm. Like, you know, if you're going to support anybody, you know, support, you know, I know people who bought tickets for fundraisers and they don't go. Like, they're just, they're, you know, they've or bought an ad in the fundraisers journal or whatever, commemoration journal. But as we get towards the end, I wanted to ask, what is the goals for the rest of, you know, the year? This has been a crazy year with COVID-19 kind of like just taking over everyone's lives and making us just sit still. And I appreciate it to a certain degree. Yeah. But I know that some people, you know, they don't really see the glass half full like I do. So what about for you? Like, what do you see for yourself for the rest of 2020?
Yeah, so 2020 has been awesome despite all that is happening. I'm shifting into a new position at a new company, so that is happening. I just actually wrote my fourth book, so it is off to the editor.
Damn, she just released the book. What was that? 2 weeks ago or a week ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
And you about to drop the fourth? Hold on. Let me just. Leah got her foot on y'all necks, yo. You think it's a game? I'm telling you, I just know, go get it, people. She just dropped the book. You hear this madness? And the fourth book is coming. Okay.
Yeah, so my new goal for myself as a published author is 2 books a year.
Okay.
So my
you did that. Done, check.
Right. So the fourth book will release in September. And I'm excited about that book. So you'll be I'm giving you an exclusive because nobody even knows the title, but it's called Beautified, Finding Peace and Joy and Hope in Uncertain Times. And
I love these titles, bro.
Yeah. And so I actually thought about all that's happening right now in COVID and how do we just stay in those places of joy and hope and peace in the midst of the chaos. So I'm excited about that. And then what else? I'm working on a children's book series. So I'm shifting gears. And this one I'm actually working on. It's in the works too. I'm working on that. It's for mental health. And so as a avid therapist myself, and I'm a big proponent of mental health, it will speak to, it's a 5-book series. And so the first book will talk about depression, anxiety in young children. It is for my Black kids because that's who I work with. And I am a big, big, big advocate of early childhood intervention. Like, do not send your child to my office when they are 18, 19 years old talking about fix them, because at that point they have shaped who they are. Not that they can't be fixed, but it's a little more challenging. So send your child to me when he's 4, 5, and 6 so we can get them together.
Right.
And so, so it's a lot. I've just been telling my clients, like, either you're going to be productive or busy, and I'm choosing to be productive. And so I tell people productive means producing something. So my goal is by the time this is all said and done, I have produced some amazing things.
That's awesome. I'm really excited about these new projects, and especially the children's book, especially on the topic, because now that I feel like mental health awareness, I think this month is actually mental health awareness month. So even more exciting to hear that you are going to be taking the position for Black people and their children who, you know, may be suffering from mental issues and, you know, might be ignored. And I'm just happy to see that the trend of people taking it more serious is actually trending in that direction. So that's positive. I can't wait till that drops. That's going to be dope.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've already gotten anybody that knows me, I already have titles and everything in my mind, but my first 2 books will talk about depression and anxiety and how friendship can help.
Hey, don't give them all the ideas now.
All right, I won't.
You gotta wait.
But just know I am over here working on some amazing things. And so you guys, you're gonna have to follow me. You're gonna have to find me on social media.
Yeah, tell them where they could find you, Lee.
Yeah, so if you are on Facebook, I am Leah. It's Leah Michelle on Facebook. You can just send me a friend request. And if you're on Instagram, it's I am Leah Michelle. I'm also on LinkedIn with my name, Leah Forney, and then I'm on Twitter as Leah Forney as well.
Awesome. And we're going to wrap up now. Leah, thank you so much for being on Raven Maven. And you guys, my subscribers and even to the new folks that's on here, you can follow Raven Maven on Instagram at Raven Maven Show. We're also on Facebook under our name, Raven Maven. And, you know, stay tuned. We're probably going to be doing one more episode. Originally, I was only planning to do 6 because I usually do 6 episodes a season, but we're going to have someone else that Leah has introduced me to on the show. So I'm excited to have her, and, you know, just keep following us, like, subscribe, and share. Make sure you do that right now. And, you know, stay tuned for more good stuff, more Black stories. Raven Maven, keeping it blacker than ever.
Hey.